We have a cat, ladies and gentlemen. Hey guys, so I am doing the long-awaited Carrie review, and this is for the movie that just recently came out, I believe on the 18th, and I saw it last night, so I'm here to talk about it. And this one has been so requested, so I'm sure you're all really excited to see this in your subscription feed. Now, I went into this, okay, here's my first impressions before I even saw the movie. I was actually a little scared, being a classic movie, Carrie, from 1976. It was actually Stephen King's first published novel, and so I kind of have a sentimentality, I guess. Is that a word? I don't know. I'm just kind of attached to the original, and I was really worried that the remake would not live up to it. Now, I'm not very picky with remakes at all. I love The Thing, I love Evil Dead, and I love their remakes. I don't know, one was prequel, but anyway. I love those because they put a new spin on the movie. It's not a direct recreation, but this one, you can't really change the plot. It has to kind of be a direct recreation. So that's what got me a little bit worried. And then when I saw the trailers, it was a recreation of it, nothing new. And then the cast for, who they cast for Carrie was a little worrisome. They chose Chloe Moritz, which is one of my favorite actresses. I love her, but not in this role. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. She does not play a weird girl. Like, she's not believable in that role at all. She is not a believable weird girl. She's too pretty. I mean, Sissy Spacek from the 1976 version was beautiful, but you could believe that she could be a weird girl. She wasn't classically beautiful, and I don't know, you could believe it, whereas Chloe is, I believe, classically beautiful. I mean, I think a lot of people would see her as beautiful, and therefore I just feel like, especially in her prom attire, she didn't look like the weird girl. Even when Sissy Spacek like dressed up in her dress and everything, she still kind of gave the vibe as the unpopular girl. So I didn't like that right off the bat. I did not think the cast for, who they cast for Carrie was appropriate. However, Julianne Moore as Margaret White was amazing, and I loved all the other cast members who played Sue and Chris and Tommy and all of them. I loved their cast, or the actors for those roles. They played them perfectly. Obviously, this is kind of not a direct recreation because it is set in 2013, whatever, now, versus the 70s. So it did have a modern twist on the classic movie, but I don't know if it went all that well over with me. Overall, after the movie, I would say it was about a 7. So let me go into some of the differences about the movie. Honestly, they did a really good job recreating the classic story of this movie. You know, with the period scene in the shower, I felt that was very emotional, just like the first one. And I mean, honestly, as a girl and going through a period, I could relate. Not that I didn't know what it was, but you feel so sorry for her in that moment because she has no idea what's going on. So I'm talking about this as if you guys have seen it, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, I would watch the trailer or go see the movie or watch the original because the plot line is basically the same, which I recommend watching the original anyway, especially if you haven't seen it. So I will say that if you haven't seen the original, you probably would really enjoy this remake, the movie, because you wouldn't be like me and sit there and try and find things that are so different, because I'm just like a hot-headed person and like to say that the original is always better. So some of the differences was mostly towards the end. For instance, this is kind of a spoiler. If you're not familiar with the Carrie story, then I just wouldn't watch this part because I'm going into the ending and the things in the end that were different from the first one. But honestly, knowing it is not gonna spoil the movie for you, I don't think. I think you would still enjoy it. So with the first one, what had happened after the pig's blood had been dropped on Carrie, she had set the cafeteria, the gym, whatever it was, I don't remember, where the prom was taking place. She set the prom on fire and everybody dies in that room, in the gym. And then in this one, a lot of people escape. And in the first one, Sue who was a girl who was tormenting Carrie in the beginning and felt bad and told her boyfriend to ask Carrie to the prom, which is how she became prom queen, with Tommy, who is prom king. But it was rigged so they could drop the pig's blood on her. So in the first one, everybody dies except for Sue, and Carrie does escape. But anyway, so Sue's the only one alive in the first one, or in the original, and this one, Sue lives, but a lot of other people do as well. So I don't know how I felt about that. I was kind of disappointed. I just was looking for everybody to die. Sounds morbid, but we're all morbid here, right? We all love horror. I was just wanting everybody to like be burned alive in the gym because of how they treated her. Honestly, this movie does make me like frustrated and mad because they really deserve what they got. Especially the bitch girl, Chris. Oh my god. I hated her so much, and that's the point. They want you to hate her character, and I absolutely did. I could not stand her, and she felt so real. Like, the acting and the character and the actor that they got for Chris was amazing, because she felt like a mean girl in any school. I could see her in any high school being the mean girl, so her character was super believable. I feel like I'm all over the place in this review, and I'm sorry. I am going to get into some spoilers that are different at the end that I think would not ruin the movie, but ruin the end, I guess. So I'm gonna get into that now. So in the end, it's really similar to where Carrie gets home, she showers or, you know, bathes all the blood off, and then her and her mom kind of get in this heated argument, and her mom stabs her in the back, literally, with a knife in the back, and that's all the same. She crucifies her mom on the wall using her telekinesis. I didn't even mention she had telekinesis in this whole review thus far. Wow, I'm so disorganized. Yeah, she has telekinesis. We all know that anyway. I'm just assuming you guys know the story of Carrie, so I apologize if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, so she uses her telekinetic powers to push her mom against the wall and basically crucify her, which is ironic because her mom is super religious. So I loved that irony, even though it was like in the book and everything. It's this, I still love it in this movie. So then with the guilt that she feels, she, in the original, sets her house on fire as well with using candles. And then in this one, she collapses her house with stones. And I was so confused where those stones came from. I'm pretty sure her house was made of wood. And then my boyfriend was like, maybe she was summoning the stones from outside and like throwing them on her house to collapse it. I'm not sure. Let me know if you guys know, because that was one of the things I was kind of nitpicky about, is where the stones come from. So Sue comes into the picture. She comes to Carrie's house to see if she's all right, and she sees Carrie hunched over her mom, and she's like, I want her back. I killed her. I didn't mean to. And then she holds her hand up to Sue's belly and says, it's a girl. And Sue's like, what are you talking about? Or like her face is like, what? And Carrie's like, you didn't know? Because she's pregnant with Tommy's baby, which Tommy had died in the gym because the can of the blood fell on him and killed him. I don't know, I feel like that would just knock you out, but maybe if it hits like a soft spot. So in the original though, this was all Sue's nightmare, that she went to visit Carrie's home in the ashes, and then as she was leaning down to place a flower, Carrie's bloody hand comes out of the rubble. That's in the original. This one, it actually happens. But Carrie pushes Sue out with her powers to the street, and then her house just kind of caves in on itself and just collapses all to the ground. And then the very, very end, I did not like at all, when it shows Carrie's tombstone and it says Carrie burns in hell. I feel like that's, I don't know, those people, man, I just don't know. They're so awful. And then on her grave, Sue puts a rose on it, kind of like in the original. And then the grave like cracks, like it starts cracking because it's coming up from the grave. So I'm not sure, it was believable in the original because it was meant to be in Sue's dream, and then Sue like wakes up in her mother's arms screaming, and that's the end. Whereas this one, it's meant to be real. Like Sue was actually at her house. She actually visited her tombstone. and the crack actually happened, which isn't believable. It's like Carrie died. Is there a second one? Like, I don't know why they would do the crack up the tombstone when she's dead. It's like her powers die with her. It's not, I don't know. I was a little thrown off by that. One of my favorite aspects about this movie though was the car accident. I loved that. And then my boyfriend's like, anything in slow-mo, I instantly love it. So, well, not anything, he meant like violence in slow-mo is awesome. So I agree. I think it was really awesome because you hate them so much that you will watch them get their face bashed in by a steering wheel and have their face go through a windshield because you're just like, yes, like it's such an evil part of us that is just like, oh my god, yes. It was awesome that Carrie got her revenge that way. It actually wasn't that gory. There were some scenes that were cringeworthy, I'd say, like Margaret when she was in the dry cleaners. She is a seamstress, and so she fixes garments, and when she's like frustrated, she'll take her seam ripper out and like dig it into her thigh, and there was that scene that was cool. I appreciated it, but it made me like cringe because it's just gross to think about. So but yeah, some of the gore was okay. I did have some issues with the gore. For instance, the pig's blood, not realistic at all. It was clear, and I don't think blood is clear. I think they could have used a more opaque, after the blood had been dumped and it was on Carrie, it looked real, but as it was like falling, it was too bright red to be blood. And then in one part of the movie, her mother slices her like calf open, or at least that's what it appears to be. It's like a split second. And then the next scene, she gets up and is like pushing her mother, and she's walking fine, like, and there's no blood on her nightgown or anything. She's just walking. And so I don't know if she actually did like slice her calf, but I think so because the whole audience was like, oh my god. So I think that's what happened. I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but little things like that I just kind of noticed that were my favorite. Overall, this is a really cool movie, I'd say. I wouldn't say you have to see it in theaters. This would be still enjoyable seeing it from home. So if you're like debating whether or not you should see it, I would recommend you see it if you're a Stephen King fan or just an original Carrie fan. I would see it just to see it in theaters because I think that's worth it. But if it's, you know, not your thing normally, then just wait for it to come out on DVD. I really don't think it's like spectacular by any means, but it was entertaining. Like, I will say I was excited watching it because it's so cool to see an original story be told again in a different way in modern day, I think was the most interesting part of it. So that is all for this review. Let me know if you've seen this movie, what you thought of it. If you want to compare the two, which I think there's no comparison. I think the original will always be the best. Even if they had cast somebody different for Carrie in this one, in the 2013 one, I still think the original will always be better. That is it for this review. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.